Questions for Tracy about how to build your organization to 500.
Hey, I have a question, Tracy. Hey, nice to see you. I just have a question about, tell me a little bit about where you got that confidence in the very beginning. I love what you said about you're not supposed to sound like yourself. Because I mean, I have a girlfriend at Accountability Partners. We've spoken to you. We just are making a career out of reinventing the wheel, and I keep knocking myself in the head, saying, "Stop doing that!
Yeah, how's that
Why are
working for
you
you?
doing that?" But tell me a little bit about where you got that confidence, if you can remember, back to the days when it was really early on. That'd be real helpful for me.
That's an interesting question, Lisa, and I really appreciate it. Kind of like Chris, my story is very similar. I got into real estate because I was desperate. I had $17,000 worth of debt, and I was making $20,000 a year. From the time that I was 16 on, I was supporting both of my parents. So people say, "Why didn't you have children?" I said, "Well, I had two children when I was 16." They were both in their 50s, but nevertheless. So it was always grind. And I didn't see any way out of it. So when I went into real estate, I bought the Tom Hopkins book. It used to be called How to Master the Art of Listing and Selling Real Estate. And he had a for sale by owner system. And the book was written like in the early 80s. Okay. And this was the late 90s. So it was very dated. But I took his script word for word. I took his FSBO system, only instead of putting it on index cards, I put it on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. And I followed the Tom Hopkins for sale by owner script word for word. And I followed his system word for word. And my first year in real estate, I made $70,120. And my average sales price was $78,000. So now, again, the year before, I had made a fraction of that. So you cannot, and my tax bracket went from the 28% tax bracket to the 14% tax bracket. So you cannot imagine what it was like. And then the next year I made 120. And what I did is I counted every time that I dialed the phone, because what Tom Hopkins taught me is that the only thing that you can do, the only thing you can control is how many times you pick up the phone. So at the end of the year, and I didn't start drinking until I was in real estate either. So at the end of the year, I opened up a nice bottle of wine. I counted how many calls that I had made. I did the math, and I made $19.97 every time I picked up the phone. Guess what? The next year, it was real easy to make an extra 5 phone calls a day, because I was like, that's $100. I can go to Macy's and get some lipstick and eyeshadow, and that's how I thought. So if I wanted to go out to a nice dinner, the way that I would justify it is, well, I'll make 8 extra phone calls today. Well, that year, first of all, I had all the stuff in the pipeline from the first year. So you got compounding. That year I made $99.11 every time I dialed the phone. So guess what? In the year 2000, how easy was it to pick up the phone every time and make those phone calls? So for me, it was about following the Tom Hopkins script that worked. I never tried to figure it out on my own. Once I started to get very deep into NLP, then I started to run the scripts through NLP, and then I tested them. I did 100 phone calls that way. I compared the results from when I was doing it the other way. I had better results with the NLP. So everything was test. And then when I got my NLP certification, let me tell you, it was Katie bar the door. Every script was redone. Every script was completely zoned in on every word, every phrase, every comma. So it was all about doing what I knew worked. And I had a really big why. I really needed to be successful to start out with. And then once I became successful, it was so much more fun, and so then it was always the challenge, well, how can I make a little bit more money and work a little bit less? And that's the lifestyle that I've been able to really, So confidence, I didn't have any confidence, but Tom Hopkins had confidence. So I just used Tom words, and I just, said them with a Southern accent. So. Does that answer the question?
It really does. It really does. Thank you so much. I mean, it's such a process of undoing what I think I need to do, and to just lean on, trust these people who are just, saying, please listen to us. Look what we've done. Stop it. So it's a process. Thank you.
Great question, Lisa. Outside.